I wasn't expecting that. Hi, everybody. It's Amanda, part of your Lightworkers support team. And I am here with my good friend, the Tiny Human Lady. And she is going to help me today by asking the questions for our May, what month is it? Q&A 2022. And Rebecca, Tiny Human Lady, tell us about yourself a little bit.
Okay, hello. Thanks for having me, Amanda. So you and I met through a mutual client, and then that client suggested I have a session with you. So I did. I had a couple sessions with you, and then I don't know, that organic thing just happens where we click and get close super fast, and then develop sort of this organic friendship, sometimes working relationship. So I would say, like, it's really nice to be here as an evolution of that. And so while you've been doing your thing with your channeling, I've slowly been developing my own channel and learning how to do that through you a lot and some books you recommended. But I mostly was focused on learning quantum healing hypnosis technique and developing my intuitive abilities. So that's just a tiny little bit about me. And I have a YouTube channel, Tiny Human Lady. So
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody watching this, you probably already know how this works. The good thing is, instead of me having to open my eyes and reorient myself to the world and like figure out what the next question is, Rebecca has got a theme, I guess, of questions to ask today, and I don't know what they are, so it's exciting.
Yeah, and maybe now is a good time to say, I mean, I'm going to tackle some really big questions, so I'm excited. We'll see what comes through.
All right, and I'm just going to set the intention that I do not allow my ego to step in on this. I'm not going to allow my personality to have an opinion here. I'm going to just bring through what they say. And if you see me grimace, it's because my ego is worried about how people are going to take what I say. So
I love that you said that. That's totally fair. I'm going to do the same thing in my own way. And I'm just going to try to keep myself calm and cool.
Cool. Okay. So what I usually do here is while I get in state, if you want to take a few deep breaths with me, and you can be in state too, and then I'll nod when I'm ready for the first question. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Hello, it's Rebecca here, and Amanda, as you know. And so I thought, since we just introduced ourselves and how we met, it would be great to ask you guys to introduce yourself and anything you think would be helpful for us to know, or anything you just want to share about yourselves.
We are what you have been referring to as Arcturians. We are a group of consciousnesses with many different experiences and many different, what you would call star systems. And you would say we have evolved to a group consciousness. We, from your point of view, would be considered disembodied. However, from our perspective, we have aspects of the collective that are currently embodied.
All right. I think I understand that all. Can I say something back to you and you can let me know if I've portrayed it accurately? So you are primarily Arcturian. At this point in your group consciousness evolution, you've decided to unify into a group consciousness. And in doing so, you've chosen to become non-physical or disembodied. However, you still have co-consciousnesses, what you called aspects of you, that are embodied currently in a physical incarnation.
We would say, first of all, not every part of the collective is from the same, what you would call, home world. We have many that you would say began our journeys on the same planet. However, many in our collective have never had a life on that planet. And we did not call our planet Arcturus. However, many who we are in contact with there, who channel, interpreted our collective and the beingness that we are and our origins to equal a frequency of sound that they interpreted as Arcturian.
And so it's sort of like the best way to identify how we've innocently misinterpreted a collective or strong signal of one unified, Arcturian idea.
We would say, from your perspective, we can understand the need to put a name to something, or you cannot speak of it, which is different from our way, in which we do not need words or names. And we wish to address another part of your question.
Sure.
Hold on, I lost it. I lost what they wanted to talk about.
That's okay. Take your time. It's all good.
You had stated that we decided to become disembodied, which is not precisely accurate. It was an evolution where it no longer made sense to embody.
And why is that?
You can embody in the physical, where you are cut off from the knowledge of all that is in order to have certain experiences. And you can embody in the physical, not cut off from all that is, to have experiences. And we have done all of those to the extent where the experiences we would have if we continued would be down to the tiniest differences, like a grain of sand difference.
Mhm.
And so there was no longer a need to embody.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. And so, as a group of consciousnesses, can you help me understand like how you choose to answer these questions? Is it like an organic process that happens really naturally for you? Or is it more like you need to check in with the parts of the group?
It is much like any human answering a question. You have parts of your brain that remember memories of science and learning science. And when you need to answer a science question, you automatically call upon the parts of your brain that hold the science memories. It is so with the collective. We simply access the parts of the collective that have the experience in whatever the question is regarding.
Okay. And with humans, though, sometimes we can have a lot of conflict in choosing which sort of orientation to answer the question from. You know, we have this internal battle inside us sometimes. Do you ever experience that?
No, it is more ordered.
Mm-hmm.
We interpret the question, and it is as if the possible responses are listed in order from most likely to least likely to fulfill your request. And we may offer more than one in the list.
Okay. Thank you for explaining. I think I have one more question before I get into my like theme of the questions. And if you have any questions, absolutely feel free to ask as well. My last question is, when it comes to deciding to work with humans on Earth and helping teach us and guide us or counsel us or just interact, have got these types of conversations with us, like what is your inspiration, or where does your desire to do that come from?
Your requests. We are of service to any request, help, answers. We have no motive, so to speak, other than we hear your request, we feel your request, and we present ourselves to those who are open to the interaction in order to help, you would call it.
Mm-hmm. And why do you want to, or why do you like to answer the calls and help?
In one way, it is further expansion. In others, it is remembering what it was like to be embodied. And understanding that the higher, or we would say alternate perspective that we have might be beneficial to you. In addition, we do have a minority part of our collective that is embodied on Earth. And so it is in the interest of not only our collective, but in the all, to answer the calls, so to speak. It aids your expansion, our expansion, and therefore the all's expansion. This is from our perspective.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you. We talk a lot about, intention and discernment in the spiritual community, or in just any time we're opening up conversations like this. So I wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. All right, so should I get into the questions? Do you have any questions, or is there anything else you want to share before we get started? Nope. Okay, so I'm gonna just set this question up so we have a starting point, because it is a big question. It feels like for a long time, the world has been, and humanity over, however many hundreds of thousands of years, we've had this one concept, or at times several different concepts of, what God is, what good and evil is, and why we're here, and that sort of thing. And it also seems like that's been shifting a lot lately, and people have been coming into their own more personal senses of what source or spirit or God, or you mentioned the word the all, is. And we're also shifting our perspective of, or our understanding, expanding our understanding of what duality is, and how we've applied certain concepts onto those things like good and evil. So I was really excited and curious, since you do have a completely unique and different perspective than humanity on what God is. So even that word, I feel like, is already kind of like not the most ideal starting point, because humanity has applied the concept of God onto whatever that energy or that being or that creation or whatever that all is. So if you can, in a way that maybe humanity hasn't heard before, or from your perspective, how would you describe what you call the all?
From our perspective, the all is simply that. It is every energy consciousness or non-consciousness in existence. It is everything, and we are a part of everything, and it is a part of us. From our perspective, we do not see one particular entity who created everything. We do not see one particular starting point for creation. And we understand that it is difficult when you are in a physical locality that experiences time from past to present to future only, that you would have trouble understanding the idea that it exists differently outside of your physical experience. And so for us, there was no beginning and there is no end. And we would say that all is now, except that it has no meaning in your context. We would say when you have our perspective, you have reached an understanding and the ability to know about any part of anything we can perceive. We can perceive Earth. We can perceive you there. We can perceive other planets, stars, dust, asteroids, meteors, the space in between, or at least what you perceive as the space in between matter, and all have meaning and without sounding too much like we are falling back on the timeline, history. If you equate history to experience, that is what we mean. Everything has a type of energy consciousness, which you might call an energy signature, which when we focus upon it, we understand not only what you perceive as this moment, but your entire history as a being, as that one particular human, and what you are likely to do and be from this moment forward in your particular understanding. Does this make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. And so you're saying that everything is a part of the all. Yes.
As we perceive it, yes.
Mhm. And so is the all at every point a singularity?
As we perceive it, no. It has no point of origin or point of ending. It is flowing, we would say, or breathing, you might say, exhales and inhales, flowing, but never not existing, never beginning, never ending.
And so is there any awareness of it, how the all came to be?
We are attempting to explain that from our perspective, time as you know it does not exist outside of your reality. There is no time.
Yeah, as much as I can envision it, and especially when I think about it in a dimensional way, I think I understand that basically from the fifth dimension or the fifth plane or however we say that and up, there is no time. Is that accurate?
From your perspective, if we say you are fourth dimensional being, you are a fourth dimensional being, moving towards fifth dimension or density. Well, we would simply say, from your perspective, when you are not embodied, there is no time. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it is.
So in
So,
between your incarnations there, you do not experience time.
okay. Is it a rule out there that if you are bodied or physical, that there is time? Would that be safe to
No.
say? Damn it. All right, that's fine. Sorry. Sorry. Just trying to make sense of the world a little, just a little, but that's all right. We're trying. Okay. Okay. This is helpful. This is good. So I'm just going to kind of like try to collect all of that and take some breaths and sort of feel into where to go next with this. So let me just digest a little bit. Because admittedly, like from my human perspective, it's I'm not sure why it's frustrating, but I'll just admit that like I feel frustrated thinking, knowing that there was no beginning, that there was no like, okay, now it's happened. The all is in being, right? The all is being now. The all is the all now. Like I wanted that moment to exist. I'm biological, so I have a beginning.
Yes. And we could say, even disembodied, you could say that you did have a beginning on the particular path you have chosen.
Mm-hmm.
If you are disembodied, that does not mean you don't begin something. It just means you make a decision. So there are decision points, you could say, but not something out of thin air, you would say.
Did you ever have issues like learning all of this when you were learning it? Like when you came to the understanding that the all has always alled?
In the majority of our collective, we evolved in a very sympathetic way with what you would call the nature of our planet. And we had the idea that it had always been there. And so from that perspective, we did not have the same issue with perceiving something that had no beginning. We do not have, for example, creation stories as you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my intentions for asking these questions in the first place is because it feels like humanity is quite stuck, and a lot of us want to be helpful. Obviously, you do as well. That's why we're both here. Well, and Amanda too, and all of us. So I'm asking this question primarily because I feel like humans are so fixated on, I don't really know at this point, but we're stuck, and there's a lot of oppression going on, as you know, and there's a lot of trying to rise up against that as peacefully as possible. And so I don't know. I feel like in the spiritual community, a lot of us are trying to like help humanity, but then in other aspects of the spiritual community, there's people who are like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and it's not right or wrong or bad or good. And even if that meant humanity may become quite small or have a briefer time here, that's also not bad. And I agree with that, though. I think like humanity is really tired of suffering, and we've seen so many cycles of it, and we know so much of it from our history. So yeah, I guess knowing that there's some of you here in a body, what are some of the things that you guys feel like personally are your goals or missions for the humans you have here, or however we should say that?
We have seen from our perspective that there is actually a very precise balance where neither good nor bad from your perspective is quote unquote winning. However, both the majority of good and bad are requesting assistance for change. And so we are here specifically to alter the vibration of the collective energy there embodied by bringing our alternate perspective into your collective there. And the hope is that adding this to the mix will allow some growth so that it is not two sides pushing against and not allowing either to move, but that a portion of the two opposing forces start to coalesce and become more of a collective. And the more collective there is, the more collective there becomes. In addition, there is a pervasive fear on the planet, fear energy. And our hope is that with this new vibration and that of other groups, not just our collective on the planet there, that the fear is slowly dissipated by understanding. That is our goal and the goal of many who have, from your perspective, evolved beyond the physical, but have incarnated a portion of their energy here in order to serve our fellow beings in a way that they have requested.
And so when you talked about your perspective, your alternate perspective, do you have like one cohesive collective perspective, or are you talking about like your teachings or beliefs in general?
We would say, when we say from our perspective, we are differentiating between the disembodied collective state of understanding versus your perspective from embodiedness on the planet there and what you know. Is there a
Okay.
specific?
Yeah, I think, but I'm gonna back up a little bit before I get into some more questions about your perspectives, because yes, absolutely, very, very interested in those. I wanted to back up a little bit and ask a little more for a little more understanding about how right now you see on Earth that good and bad, as you put it, are equal, and neither is winning. And I'm just curious, like just for like a little thought experiment, or just like to help kind of with perspective and orienting me, just in a hypothetical situation, if let's say the bad quote unquote was like winning, let's say they were at like 75% win, and so the good was only 25% successful. Can you give me an example of like what that might look like here on Earth? Like how would we be feeling that? How would that be physically happening? What would that look like?
I feel like they're trying to calculate it out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's, oh, I can't open my eyes. I feel like it's yeah, it's difficult from their perspective. They don't have negative polarity, so they can't even extrapolate out how that would look because it's not one of our timelines currently. Like it's not a probability, so they can't like make it up.
That's
And they don't want
refreshing.
to. They don't want to make it up.
Okay. All right. All right.
And also just like because I get images and it's stuff that they don't say in words.
Yeah.
When they're talking about the two, like the bad and the good,
Mm-hmm.
it's like both are just pushing, and that's why we're not going anywhere. It's like there's no progress. You can't go this way or this way. It's
Yeah.
just there's right here. And what usually happens is one will strike and then they can both go like a rock, like a slip fault or something. It's just like it'll eventually somehow slip and then the two can go their separate ways. But I don't think it's both on the earth. I don't think doesn't seem like that's what happens. I don't know. That's just the impression I got. I didn't get any further than that.
Okay, that's totally cool. I'll go somewhere else because I like that answer. That's an answer in itself that is just like not even a possibility, and like don't make it up. But I'm sure like we can all envision, because we've been watching these post-apocalyptic movies all of our lives. And we're like, definitely, we've been alive the past 2 years. We know we've gotten a taste of it. And if you look at other countries, you can go see what's going on. So I think we can imagine it. And but while you're here, Amanda, are there any questions that you have that you want me to ask today, now that you kind of know what we're into?
Um, I just as you were asking that, I just like caught a glimpse at like I got a little snap of understanding that the more bad pushes against the good, and subjective, but all it can do here is bring people together more. Like it's the bad can't, like we're moving towards positive polarity because the um the main collective wants that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a possibility to go negative, even when it looks like the negative is like doing really horrible things and it's getting bigger. All it can do is cause more love, basically,
Mhm.
is what it feels like.
Okay. Okay. Let me just take a minute and see where I want to go with this now. And feel free to get into your thing. I'll keep my eye on you. If so, when you nod, you're back in.
I'm still connected.
Oh, you are. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'd like to then kind of go where you just took us, and this is a new concept to me. This idea, what you were just saying about how the energy of the bad or the dark can actually be helpful to the other side, the light, the positive. And I heard actually just, it might have been yesterday, said another way, which is this sort of like, you know, maybe it's unconscious or secret or hidden intention or purpose of the dark is actually to serve the light. So I wanted to know what you thought about that, what the collective thought about that.
We would say those parts of consciousness who have chosen negative polarity do not intend to serve the light. However, the majority of the time, a great majority of the time, that is the trajectory of, for lack of a better term, those who choose negative polarity. Their trajectory leads them to the light. There are very, very few examples of anything else happening. The negative polarity can't be maintained as easily as positive polarity. It is a quality of beingness that exists in this sphere. We have no other term for the existence where we and you and the all exist. And so consciously, those people on your planet who choose negative polarity choose to live through the negative polarity energy do not know they are serving the light consciously. They do not know subconsciously or even on an energetic level, because they are not at the evolutionary step where they realize there is no other trajectory but towards the light. And this is when the beings, we would say, either double down and try harder, which is exceedingly more difficult at that stage, multiplied towards infinity, than simply flipping polarities. And so from the evolutionary stage of the negative polarity on Earth, it is not a conscious decision to serve the light. However, the underlying theme of the majority of all negative polarity is that it becomes positive polarity through evolution.
Because
Does
that's
that
just,
answer?
yeah, because it sounds like that's the law. That's the built-in law of the primary positive orientation in this sphere.
Well, we would say it's not necessarily a law, but it is the majority of experience. Let us just say there has not been a negative polarity energetic type who has been able to maintain negative polarity past a certain evolutionary point.
Okay. And is that, how did you say it? It's not like the collective. I said law, but you said, can you repeat what you said? I'm sorry. It's not a law, but it's the most common
Experience.
experience. Okay. Is it the most common experience of the all to also have that positive orientation?
We would say past a certain evolutionary point in an experience, and we realize we are using experience in different ways here, we will say when an energy makes the decision to start a new series of experiences, such as embodying on a planet through a series of lives, as you call them, that energy, whether negative or positive, but most likely positive, will or can choose to be either polarity through that experience. And so it begins a whole new evolution in that particular type of experience. And so just for the sake of showing how different experiences can be, we will say energy consciousness could also decide to begin an experience of being an asteroid that travels throughout space for hundreds of thousands of years. That can be the beginning of its experience. And so everything it encounters adds to its experience until it evolves enough to change, or until it gets to a point where it doesn't exist anymore. And then it returns to its previous state. This becomes increasingly difficult to speak of in terms of your time construct.
I get that. I think that the way my human mind comes at this question is sort of like trying to get to the guiding inspiration or the guiding motivation or forces of existence and being and creation. And in the spiritual community, we're often taught that that's love, and that's what it feels like. Especially Earth feels like that, and our own hearts feel like that too. So that's really where my question was coming from.
Okay, we would say that the collective of Earth, the beings that, well, to begin, Earth was created to host a collective of energies who would ascend to positive polarity. But in order to do this, you need a contrast, which you have there. And so it makes sense that your hearts are focused on positive polarity, but we would say neutrality is probably the best word to describe the energy of the all. And we realize that is not a pleasant thing, a pleasant way to think of, but we are not expressing it in proper terms.
No, actually, I think this is a perfect place because neutrality has also been something in this past year, especially that, has been a focus in some aspects of the spiritual community, and it's brought a huge amount of value to my life, and it's really done like massive shifts. So I really appreciate neutrality. I think that what you're picking up on, at least from my personal experience is that when we think of neutrality in a shadow form or the negative side, right? The positive side is holding space for, like, you know, whatever we call the all that we hope is good, making space for the all to do just massive, mind-blowing miracles that we could never conceive of, right? So that's what we think about divine neutrality, is just getting our hearts and minds out of the way of what we perceive as something that's unpleasant, and just trusting that that's part of a greater mystery to us right now. But that's, kind of facets of what we were saying, that it's on the upswing to the positive. But the shadow side of neutrality, especially when it's in the context of something so powerful, is that it doesn't really have a preference. If something is neutral in its orientation, the fear is that nobody's really looking out for us in the end, except for ourselves.
We would say that, for an example, we are a positive polarity collective. However, in our stages towards further evolution, we can see that the stages of evolution we are heading into are becoming more and more neutral. And we would say that though the pervasiveness of the all is neutrality, it is not a destructive neutrality. It is expansion and experience focused. And so, in a way, you could say that although there is perhaps no particular deity looking out for you, as you say, there is also no devil or Satan trying to dog your steps, we would say. And again, we can only say theme of existence that we and you are experiencing is expansion through experiences, a series of experiences, or different focuses of experiences. Mm-hmm. And that not all experiences contain negative polarity. Only some experiences contain a negative polarity.
And then because we're here on Earth, who has a positively polarized intention, we as humans who are Earth bodies sort of have that birthed into us. Would that be fair to say? We have that intention.
It is a part of your core being. Mm-hmm. The knowledge, it is always there.
And then when we've had beings incarnate here who have done, massive good, and when we talk about ascended masters who are, if this is accurate to say, humans who've led a miraculous incarnation and then have been able to come back, or not come back, but come back in their own way, in their own master way, and continue to guide us from their next incarnations. They are also, the ones we look up to are very loving and expansive and creative focused in our development and our progression as humanity. So are those energies and those beings and those forces, like, my question is, are they more like human created, or were they really doing their thing and we are accurate to, like, look up to them and take guidance and counsel from them? We would say there are guides of Earth, so to speak, with the intention of aiding the collective from the sphere of Earth or the spheres around Earth, which means
they have a connection, whether embodied or not, to Earth. And they have ties to Earth, so to speak, so that when they incarnate, they I can only think of pack a punch. They really pack a punch. They make a big dent in the collective consciousness. And then from the spheres of Earth, after that incarnation, when they are no longer embodied, or actually that is not accurate, we should say they are only partially embodied, and the majority of their aspect is still connected to the Earth for the experience they wish to have, and also for the experience they wish to provide, which is to continue or keep the positive polarity evolution going there. And so there are mythologies, of course, surrounding certain humans. However, most of them had the intention of making a large impact there and staying connected to the Earth in order to continue to send their wisdom into the collective energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much. Thank you. So then I'd love to get into some of these perspectives of yours, of your collective, and in regards to like what you think would be most helpful to us right now, and especially if it can tie in to some way about this concept of God that we're trying to expand or grow out of, kind of just like mature out of that viewpoint, or expand into another way of thinking about it. And I'd also love to know if there's anyone in your collective that is kind of what I was just asking about, like an ascended master, or and had an incarnation here on Earth that was very significant to humanity or the Earth in some way.
We do not have any well-known ascended masters in our collective. We would say the best way we believe you could evolve more quickly and easily is to have more faith in each other than in a deity. In other words, you are the ones there evolving the planet, and you may have help, you may have outside help, but your goal is to become more connected to each other, to be more understanding of other perspectives. And there are a great many mechanisms there that are gumming up the works, you would say, and not aiding in the expansion. And so right now, from your perspective, things are being remade. And that looks like from there, chaos and fighting and poor decisions. But the main goal is to change those structures that are interfering with evolution and interfering with your ability to see each other as fellow beings made of the same energy consciousness as the all, and getting past these projecting of your abilities, or we would say giving up your choices and your experiences so that a deity can enforce its will upon you. You can take time to learn to create the earth you want to have. And as you've seen, when you create with other energy consciousnesses there called other humans, it makes a huge difference. It changes things. It alters the energy there in all the beings. In certain areas, you've seen experiments where people get together and focus on positive outcomes, and then you have positive outcomes there. And so the goal then would be to get all humans on the same page, so to speak. Get them all focused on everyone feeling good, feeling valued, and having what they need to not just survive, but to thrive. Because this is the fear of everyone on the planet. Those who don't want to give to others are afraid that they will lose something themselves if they do. So you've just got to focus on the one main thing, which is that everyone is happy, healthy, provided for, and thriving and loving. They're loved and they're loving and they're thriving. That's the focus. If everyone could focus on everyone on the planet having what they need to feel good and to feel valued and loved, that's all you need, really. If the majority would concentrate on this every day, you would not, you would think you were in the twilight zone. You would wake up and the world would be so different.
So I think it's safe to say that everybody wants for themselves to be fed, clothed, housed, have what they want and need, what they want to explore in life. Everybody wants that for themselves. How many people, if we don't think about like how to make it happen, but we just think about the consciousness of people, how many people are wanting that for everyone else? If we want it for ourselves, how are we not wanting that for other people just naturally, inherently?
Fear. As we said, a great number believe that to give to someone else takes away from someone, and that is not the experience in reality.
Is there like a possible ratio or a percentage of humanity that you can give that currently feels that way, that lack and fear?
$60 to 70%.
Mm-hmm. And is that focused on particular regions, or is it pretty well spread out on Earth?
We would say in what you call your most evolved regions, the dominating perspective is fear.
Are those also like the most populated areas?
We would say some of the most densely populated areas are in that group, but not the most populous of areas.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I was thinking of like really big cities or Okay. Well,
When
I
you
know.
have when you have people, so many people so close together who don't know how to maintain their own energy perspective, they're heavily influenced by the collective energy of that dense population. And so if there is 20% fear, it spreads. And those who are not normally fear-based, when they become tired, overworked, stressed, they become influenced by fear energy that they would not normally experience. It's
That
not their
definitely.
normal polarity, not their
Yeah.
normal energetic.
I experienced that firsthand too when I left the Bay Area, California. And I wasn't really even watching like the news, you know, it was just part of that like very high paced, you know, the rat race sort of culture. Okay, well, I feel like we covered a lot of ground today, but we barely got into, you know, your collective perspective and guidance and advice and counsel and all that stuff. So I hope that we can explore more of that in the future. I was wondering, as maybe a final question, when you, so your answer to my last question involved looking more towards each other and trusting each other more as a means to sort of expand on our concept of God or source or spirit or the all. And
Well,
so
we would say to focus on cooperation and amicability between one another as opposed to religion.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. And then when we think about, is there, I sort of want to like tie a nice little bow around any perhaps other ideas of God that there are, because we have like, you know, who created Earth, and we've talked a little bit about that and other times and sessions that I've asked you that, you know, aren't today. So I have a little bit of about understanding of how the earth was created and that it was created by various beings, but those beings don't necessarily, you know, tend to like the garden of humanity and trying to cultivate its consciousness and its love and expansion and, you know, evolution or ascension. um, and that's not necessarily even the goal, ascension or evolution. Like you said, it's more about expansion and experience and exploration. So for those people who love the idea of like a sentient, loving figure like that, like what is there something like for those people? Like not necessarily to worship, but to see as like I love thinking about Mother Mary, and I love thinking about Isis, and I love thinking about and feeling guided by a lineage, right? A Sophia Earth lineage. So those are like really helpful things for me, and I don't want to like let them go. And I imagine that a lot of us feel that way too. Like we feel nurtured and motivated by something bigger than us. So how, like, what do you think about that?
Well, we would say, as we said, the goal of those energies who wish to incarnate and have an experience of progressing in shifting through duality into a positive polarity, there is a, we would say, team or control room of Earth where there are beings and teams of beings who work to give those in humanity the tools they need to evolve to positive polarity. So, for instance, I'm having trouble with words at this point. This is me. They're showing me like that they can just like create things, and it would be as if they'd always been here, like mountains or something. Like if we needed more mountains in the world for some reason, not that specifically, but like if there's anything we needed, it would be created for us, and then they would give us all the memory of it all being here for all this time. Like that's, I don't feel like they do that very often, but like it's a possibility they could do that.
Who could do that?
The control team, there's like a team of beings that are,
Okay.
it's almost like it's almost like here's the metaphor. It's not exactly like this, but the metaphor is there's like a control room for Earth and for us evolving to positive polarity. And they're watching, and if any kind of energy gets out of whack or something, then you know, Susan's over there like, okay, we need more, you know, orange energy in India or something, you know, I don't know what. And it gets called in, whether we see that as stuff coming from the sun or it comes in from somewhere and we don't even know because we don't know anything about it. But to keep the balance and to keep everything running and to keep anything from going like negative polarity tilt or anything like that. So in that way, all the people that are saying like there's this big galactic battle and we're fighting the forces of evil, I mean, in a way, that's like a metaphor for the fact that we're all going to evolve to positive polarity, because that's what you choose when you come. I mean, that's the Earth experience. That's why we came here. So that's my understanding of what they're trying to get across to us.
Okay, I think I understand. Yeah. Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
I think I understand. I mean, just to like finish that thought, it sounds like what they're saying is the group of beings that I was specifically asking about are a group of beings within a group of beings that are part of like an overarching helping Earth humans, like team Earth humans helpers.
I don't think the Arcturians are part of the control room.
No, I'm talking about when I was asking about like the people who want to like feel a connection with either like an altruistic god, or like I was talking about different lineages or beings.
Yeah, the control room people. Those are the, like, I guess you could call them our angels and guides. They're like angels and earth guides specifically, who basically just create and give us what we need. Like they manifest and just give us whatever we need. I don't know. It's messing with my mind.
Don't worry. Just feel free to just like come back in. We can say goodbye to them if you feel like you're done, or you can ask like one more question.
Q&A. How long have we been doing this? I think that's probably long enough.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so I'm going to end. And don't forget to put your questions in for the June Q&A, which I'll have up at the beginning of June. I like to say June 1st, but then I forget, and then it's like June 3rd or 5th or something. Anyway, but add your questions there, and we'll do this all again next month.
Thanks for having me. Bye.